The story begins in a mine. A boy named Ivan is there when he suddenly hears strange sounds coming from inside the mine. He gets scared and runs toward his truck. Just then his father Frank arrives. Ivan tells him that he heard strange noises from the mine, but his father says that it must be the sound of people working inside the mine. Frank then walks back toward the mine. On the way, he feels like someone is behind him. He turns around to look, but no one is there. Soon Frank goes inside. There's a lab where they make drugs, and another man is there with him. They are finishing their work when suddenly they hear the sound of a monster. Hearing it, both of them get very scared. They move forward to check the sound, but as soon as they go ahead, a strange and terrifying monster attacks them. They scream loudly, and their screams are also heard by Ivan. Hearing the screams, Ivan moves toward the mine. He reaches the door of the mine and calls his father, but no one answers. Now the scene shifts to a girl named Julia, who is teaching students in a school. She asks the children to tell stories. In the class, there's a boy named Lucas. Julia asks Lucas to tell his story, but he says nothing. After school ends, Lucas comes out of the class. Some boys from his class start teasing him, but Lucas ignores them and walks toward his home. On the way, he sees a strange creature. He hits the creature with a stone, puts it in his bag, and takes it home. At Lucas's house, there's a locked room, which is tightly closed. After that, we see Julia walking in her house. Julia's brother Paul, who is a police officer, comes there. Julia is looking at family pictures, and it becomes clear that now only her brother is left in her family. At the same time, Lucas is also looking at his family picture. Suddenly, loud noises start coming from the locked room. Hearing this, Lucas becomes scared. He picks up a toy nearby and falls asleep there. The next morning, Lucas is in class again. Julia asks Lucas to tell his story. Lucas stands up and starts telling that in a town there lived 3 bears, but one day 2 of the bears changed, yet they still live together. Lucas's story sounds very scary, so the whole class becomes silent. After school, the same boys trouble Lucas again, and this time they also beat him. But Julia saves him and takes Lucas to a doctor. Now Julia tries to contact Lucas's family. She calls Lucas's house, but no one answers the phone. Later, while returning home from school, Julia sees Lucas standing outside an ice cream shop and looking inside. Julia takes Lucas into the ice cream shop and buys him ice cream. While they are there, Julia asks Lucas about his older brother. Lucas says that his brother lives with his father. Then Julia asks him what his father does. Hearing this question, Lucas becomes upset and suddenly leaves. Later, Lucas is walking back home. On the way, he finds a dead animal and picks it up. He takes the animal with him to his house. Meanwhile, Julia decides to visit Lucas's house. She stands outside and calls for him. She notices that the front door of the house is open. When she steps closer to the door, she hears terrifying sounds and growling coming from inside. The sounds frighten her badly, so she quickly gets in her car and drives away. Back at her house, Julia looks at a drawing made by Lucas. She puts the pieces of the drawing together and realizes that Lucas has drawn the face of a terrifying monster. Suddenly, Julia's brother Paul places his hand on her shoulder, which startles her. At the same time, we see Lucas cutting the dead animal. He cuts it into pieces and places them on a plate. Then he takes the plate into the locked room and leaves it on the floor. Inside the room, we see Lucas's father. He immediately jumps on the meat and begins eating it like an animal. It becomes clear that Lucas's father was bitten by the strange monster in the mine and has now become something similar to that creature. We also see Lucas's brother Ivan there. He is not fully turned into a monster yet, but he also starts eating the meat. Suddenly, Lucas's father begins screaming loudly. Lucas becomes scared, runs outside the room, and tightly locks the door. From all of this, it becomes clear that the story Lucas told in his class was actually about his own family. The 2 bears he mentioned were his father and his brother. Both of them became like that after being bitten by the monster. Meanwhile, Julia is sitting in her house, playing the piano when strange thoughts about her father start coming into her mind, where he is troubling her. Just then, her brother Paul arrives, which brings her back to reality. Julia asks Paul about Lucas's father Frank, and Paul tells her that Frank works in the mine and deals with drugs. Paul says that he tried to arrest him many times, but Frank always escaped because of his children. Julia tells Paul that she went to Lucas's house and heard very dangerous sounds there, which scared her and she ran away. After hearing this, Paul tells Julia not to go there again. Meanwhile, Lucas is sitting in the dark and drawing the same bear again. Lucas again hears sounds coming from the locked room, but he ignores them. The next morning, Lucas is setting traps to catch animals. Suddenly, he feels that someone is nearby. Then he sees a man who is looking at a dead body lying in the forest. The body looks very horrifying. Seeing this, Lucas runs away from there. At the same time, Julia is checking Lucas's seat in the classroom. There she finds many strange books and drawings, which are books about animal trapping. Seeing this, she becomes very surprised. Julia then shows that notebook to the principal Elaine and says that Lucas might need help. Elaine says that she will soon meet Lucas's father. After that, Julia sees Paul talking with a hunter. The hunter tells him that he found a dead body. Meanwhile, Lucas goes to his house and talks to his brother Ivan. He gives Ivan some candies. But as soon as Ivan eats the candy, he gets some allergy and blood starts coming from his mouth. Seeing this, their father becomes worried. Suddenly, a strange light starts coming from Ivan's body. Seeing this scene, Lucas gets scared and steps back. On the other side, Paul takes the body of Frank's old partner to the forensic lab. After checking it, the doctor says that the marks on the body do not look like they were made by a small creature, but by a human. Hearing this, Paul becomes even more worried. Meanwhile, Principal Elaine reaches Frank's house. As soon as she enters, she feels a very strong, rotten smell inside the house. She calls out for someone. Suddenly, she hears the sound of someone crying from inside. Then Elaine runs inside and sees Ivan covered in blood. But suddenly Frank attacks Elaine from behind. She falls to the ground and tries to escape, but Frank catches her and eats her. At that moment, strange, horn-like things start growing from Frank's body. Meanwhile, the police arrive near a mine to investigate. They find several bags of drugs and some horns as well. Just then, Paul receives news about a missing person, so he leaves the place with the other officers. On the other side, Lucas is walking home near the railway track. On the way, a boy from school starts fighting with him. But suddenly, a dangerous horned monster appears there and attacks that boy. Seeing this, Lucas runs away and reaches his house. When he arrives home, he sees Elaine's car outside. He goes inside and notices blood stains on the floor. This makes Lucas very nervous. After that, he comes outside, covers Elaine's car with a cloth, and cleans the blood. Meanwhile, Paul asks Julia about Elaine. He tells her that Elaine's husband has reported her missing. Julia says that she heard Elaine asking about Lucas earlier. Paul goes to Frank's house with another officer, but no one is there, so they return. Later at the school, Paul talks with a teacher who tells him that one of their students is also missing. Paul says that it might just be a coincidence, but Julia does not like this and leaves angrily. At that moment, she sees Lucas, who looks very frightened. Julia becomes suspicious and goes back to Frank's house. There she notices Elaine's car covered with a cloth and immediately informs the police. When the police search the house, they find Elaine's body in the attic. Near it, they also discover another body that is burned from the inside. Lucas also arrives there, but Julia does not allow him to go inside and takes him straight to the hospital. After examining Lucas, the doctor says that he is under severe mental stress and has suffered both physical and emotional trauma. Hearing this, Julia decides that she will adopt Lucas. In a hospital, Lucas starts remembering everything that happened after his father returned from the mine. Frank had slowly started changing. To keep the children safe, he locked the attic and told them that no matter what happened, they must never open the door. After a few days, Ivan also became sick, and by that time, Frank had already changed. Frank then took Ivan into that same locked room. Meanwhile, Paul and Julia go back to the hunter. They show him the items found in the mine and Lucas's drawings. After seeing them, the hunter tells them an old tribal story. He says that this is connected to a monster called Wendigo, a creature that is always hungry and eats humans. He also tells them that when a monster becomes weak and hungry, they must attack its heart. But he also warns them that Wendigo never truly dies, it only finds a new body. Just then, Paul receives news that a dead body has been found near the railway track. When they reach there, they see that it is the same boy who used to bully Lucas. Even after seeing this, Paul still does not believe all these things. Later, Paul and Julia go to the hospital. Julia finds Lucas and brings him to her house. Meanwhile, a police officer comes to Paul's house. Paul tells him that he is going to meet the mayor and asks the officer to check the area around the house. Inside the house, Julia talks with Lucas about his family and his father's death. But Lucas says that his father is not dead and that Ivan is still with him. Then Lucas shows Julia a drawing of the monster and says that it will come and take him. Outside the house, the police officer hears strange sounds coming from a warehouse. He informs Paul on the radio. Paul quickly drives back toward the house. Inside the house, Julia is trying to keep Lucas safe. Meanwhile, the police officer goes to check the warehouse. There he sees something moving inside a box. When he looks closely, he finds Ivan sitting inside. Suddenly, a terrifying monster attacks the officer from behind and kills him. Paul arrives there and slowly moves toward the warehouse. He sees the dead body on the ground. Suddenly, the monster attacks him and throws him away. Paul gets badly injured. The monster attacks again and injures one of his arms. Paul picked up a tool and attacked the monster, but it had no effect. The monster hit him hard and he fell unconscious. Just then, Julia arrived and helped the injured Paul. He told her that the monster had taken Lucas to the mine. Julia left Paul there and headed toward the mine. On the way, she called an ambulance and entered the mine with a torch and Paul's gun. Inside the dark tunnel, Julia saw the children, and the terrifying monster was there eating something. The monster noticed Julia and became furious. Julia realized that the creature was actually Lucas's father. She fired her gun at the monster, but it had no effect. The monster attacked her, but Julia quickly lit a fire which forced it to step back. She then attacked it with an iron rod, but the monster pulled the rod out and moved toward her again. At that moment, Lucas stabbed the monster from behind with a knife, causing it to fall to the ground. Julia quickly got up and pulled out its heart with the knife, killing the creature. Suddenly, they began hearing the voice of Lucas's brother. Julia moved toward him with a knife, but Lucas stopped her and said that his brother was just sick and would get better. Julia sadly explained that it was too late and he could never be cured. She hugged Lucas's brother and, while crying, stabbed him in the back. The next morning, Lucas was sitting beside a river. Julia and Paul were talking about him. Julia said that she would now take care of Lucas. She then left with him, but suddenly Paul started coughing and black blood came out of his mouth and eyes. It became clear that he had also been infected by the Wendigo curse. With this suspense, the movie ends.